Hello and welcome. Before we begin, I invite you to slow your breathing just a little, to let the weight of the day gently fall away, and to remind yourself that this space, is meant for rest, calmness, and peaceful learning. You don't need to focus too closely. You don't need to remember every detail. Just allow my voicito drift quietly in the background, like the distant movement of water flowing steadily through the land. Tonight, we begin a long and gentle journey, a journey into ancient Babylon, one of the earliest great civilizations in human history. A civilization born not from mountains or seas, but from rivers, from the slow, patient movement off the Tigris and the Euphrates. These rivers shaped everything. They shaped the land, the cities, the beliefs, and the rhythm of daily life. Long before Babylon became a name spoken with awe, this region was already alive. People settled here because water returned, not perfectly, not gently, but reliably. Auto build a life around it. The land between the rivers was unpredictable. Floods came suddenly, droughts followed. And so, from the very beginning, the people of Mesopotamia learned an important lesson. Survival required attention, careful planning, patience, observation. This need for balance would shape Babylon's character for centuries. As your breathing slows, imagine the earliest settlements, small clusters of homes made from mud brick, fields stretching outward, canals carved carefully to guide water where it was needed. Life here was never effortless, but it was organized, and organization became power. Over time, villages grew into towns into cities, and among them, Babylon began to rise. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily. Babylon's location mattered. It sat near the Euphrates, positioned for trade, communication, and cultural exchange. Merchants passed through, ideas traveled with them, languages mixed, customs blended. Babylon did not isolate itself. It absorbed. This openness made it strong. Early Babylon was influenced by older civilizations, the Sumerians, the Akkadians. From them, Babylon inherited writing, law, religion, and systems of governance. Cuneiform writing marked clay tablets with precise, careful symbols. Nothing was rushed. Every mark mattered. Writing preserved memory. It allowed knowledge to move forward without being lost, and memory, in Babylon, was sacred. The gods of Babylon were not distant. They were deeply involved in the natural world. Storms, floods, illness, success, all were believed to reflect divine will. This belief did not create panic. It created structure. Rituals existed to restore balance. Temples rose not as monuments to power alone, but as anchors of order. At the heart of Babylonian religion stood the idea that the universe required maintenance, that chaos was always nearby, and that humans, through correct action, could keep it at bay. This worldview shaped Babylonian life. Kings were not gods by default. They were chosen. They ruled with responsibility. They were expected to maintain justice, protect the city, and honor the gods. If they failed, the consequences were visible. Floods worsened, crops failed, power was conditional. This created caution. Decisions were deliberate, law was central. Babylon's laws were not only punishments. They were attempts to create predictability in an uncertain land. Rules established expectations, and expectations allowed rest as night deepens around you. Imagine Babylon slowly forming, city walls rising, streets planned carefully, markets organized, homes clustered together for protection. This was not chaos. This was design. The city became a living system. Water flowed through canals. Goods moved through gates. People followed routines. Morning labor, midday rest, evening rituals. Time itself was measured. Babylonian astronomers studied the sky. Stars were tracked. Planets observed. The heavens mattered, not for curiosity alone, but for guidance. The sky reflected order. And order was comforting. Calendars emerged. Festivals were scheduled. Life became predictable within uncertainty. This predictability is what allowed Babylon to endure. As your body relaxes further, notice how this civilization did not rush forward. It waited. It observed. It adjusted. Babylon did not seek domination immediately. It sought stability. And stability created longevity. In later centuries, Babylon would become powerful. Its name would echo far beyond its walls. But at its core, it remained a city shaped by patience. By rivers that taught humility. By land that demanded respect. By time that moved slowly. As part 1 settles gently into part 2, nothing changes suddenly. The rhythm remains calm. The city continues breathing. Babylon's people understood something deeply. Control was never absolute, and so they planned carefully. They stored grain. They reinforced canals. They documented transactions. They recorded debts, marriages, agreements. Life was written down because memory mattered. This documentation reduced fear. Uncertainty was softened by record. Temples functioned as spiritual centers and administrative hubs. Priests were scholars. They interpreted omens, tracked celestial movements, and advised rulers. Religion and science were not separate. Both sought understanding. Both sought balance. The ziggurat rose above the city, not to intimidate, but to connect. It symbolized a bridge between earth and sky, between humans and gods. Its steps were deliberate, its shape grounded. Climbing it was an act of reflection, not speed, not conquest. Babylon's strength came from this integration. Trade flourished, craftsmanship advanced. Art appeared not as luxury, but as expression. Patterns mattered, symmetry mattered. Even beauty served order. As night continues to deepen, your mind no longer needs to analyze. You don't need to remember names, just the feeling. A city breathing slowly, rivers flowing steadily, people moving with purpose, but not urgency. Babylon was not loud. It was layered, built over generations, each layer resting in what came before. This layered existence created resilience. When challenges came, and they did, Babylon adapted. It rebuilt. It remembered. This memorious what allowed Babylon to become more than a city. It became an idea that order can exist even in uncertainty. That rest is possible when structure supports life. As this first chapter gently comes to rest, the journey has only begun. The city is formed, but its story is still unfolding. You don't need to follow ahead. You don't need to anticipate. For now, just remain here, between rivers, between moments, between thought and rest, breathing, slowly, listening quietly. As Babylon continues to rise around you. Hello again. You are still here, still moving gently through time. Your breathing has already slowed. Your thoughts no longer rush forward. There is no need to return to the surface of the day. Babylon remains around you now. Not as a distant idea, but as a living place, slowly becoming itself. In the early centuries of its growth, Babylon was not yet the greatest city of the region. It did not dominate by force. It did not announce its power loudly. Instead, it organized. The city learned how to exist. Mud brick walls were strengthened again and again, not because they were perfect, but because they could be repaired. Streets followed patterns. Not straight lines of ambition, but practical paths shaped by use. Homes were built close together. Families lived side by side. Life was communal by necessity. Privacy was limited. Cooperation was essential. The people of Babylon understood that survival depended on shared effort. Water was the first concern. Canals were maintained carefully. Their paths were watched daily. Blockages were cleared. Leaks were repaired. This work was never finished. It required constant attention. And so, Responsibility became routine. Men, women, and children all understood the importance of water. Without it, nothing continued. This daily awareness created discipline. The Euphrates flowed nearby, steady but unpredictable. The river was respected, never fully trusted. Its floods brought fertility. Its floods also brought destruction. Babylon did not fight the river, it learned to guide it. This relationship shaped the Babylonian mindset. Control was partial. Adaptation was complete. As the city grew, specialization emerged. Some people farmed, others built, others traded, scribes recorded transactions. Priests oversaw rituals. Artisans shaped tools and objects. Each role mattered, and no single role dominated. This balance allowed the city to function smoothly. Markets became central spaces, not only for exchange of goods, but for exchange of information. News traveled through voices, stories. Moved from traveler to resident, Babylon became aware of the world beyond itself. This awareness prevented isolation. Foreign ideas were not feared. They were examined. Some were absorbed, others were set aside. The city chose carefully as night settles further around you. Imagine walking slowly through Babylon. The sound of footsteps on packed earth, the low murmur of voices, the smell of cooking fires, nothing hurried. Nothing silent either. Life moved at a human pace. Babylonian religion was present. Everywhere, small household shrines existed alongside large temples. Offerings were simple: bread, oil, incense. These acts were not dramatic, they were routine. The gods were honored daily, not out of fear, but out of responsibility. Each god represented forces that required balance: weather, health, justice, fertility. Ignoring them risked imbalance. Acknowledging them restored calm. The temple complexes grew larger over time. They were not only religious spaces. They were centers of learning, storage, and administration. Grain was stored there. Records were kept there. Decisions were discussed there. The temple stood as a stabilizing force. Kings began to emerge more clearly. Early Babylonian rulers did not claim absolute authority. Their legitimacy came from effectiveness. Could they protect the city? Could they maintain order? Could they honor the gods properly? If the answer was yes, their rule continued. If not, support weakened. This created a subtle form of accountability. Power was never completely secure, and so rulers listened. They consulted priests. They consulted advisors. They observed signs carefully. Leadership was cautious. This caution prevented sudden collapse. Babylon did not expand rapidly at first. It strengthened internally. Walls were reinforced. Canals improved. Administrative systems refined. This internal focus created resilience. When external threats appeared, the city was prepared. As you breathe slowly now, notice how this kind of growth feels. There is no urgency and no dramatic rise, just steady development. Babylonian law evolved during this time. Rules governed trade, property, and family life. These laws were written down. They were visible. This transparency reduced conflict. People knew what to expect. Predictability created peace. Even punishment aimed to restore order, not to create fear alone. Justice was practical. As the city matured, education became important. Scribes trained for years. Writing required precision. Clay tablets recorded contracts, prayers, and observations. Once written, knowledge remained. This preserved continuity. Time no longer erased everything. The memory became stable. Babylon's connection to the sky deepened. Astronomers observed patterns carefully. They tracked stars and planets. These observations were recorded patiently. Over generations, patterns emerged. The heavens were not random. They followed order. This belief reinforced confidence. If the sky had structure, then life could too. Calendars became more accurate. Festivals aligned with Seasons, agriculture benefited, religion benefited, life aligned with rhythm as part two settles quietly into the flow, nothing shifts abruptly. The city continues forming. Babylon now feels solid, not yet legendary, but dependable at a place where life can unfold as night deepens further. You do not need to hold details, just the sense of structure and of order gently supporting existence. The city breathes, the river flows, the people rest, and so can you. For Babylon's story is only beginning, and there is no need to hurry forward. You are safe to remain here between moments as sleep draws closer. You are still here. The night has grown deeper. The outside world feels farther away. Your breathing moves on its own now, slow and even, as Babylon continues to take form around you. I end this chapter of the city's life. Something subtle but powerful begins to emerge. Order. Not the loud kind. Not the kind enforced by constant force, but a quiet order, written, remembered, and returned to again and again. As Babylon grew larger, as more people gathered within its walls, the need for shared understanding became clear. Disagreements were inevitable. Trade created tension. Property required definition. Families needed structure. And so Babylon turned to law. Babylonian law did not appear suddenly. It developed slowly, shaped by experience. Rules were refined through repetition. Mistakes were observed. Adjustments were made over time. Law became something people trusted. Not because it was perfect, but because it was visible. Clay tablets recorded agreements. Witnesses were named. Decisions were preserved. Nothing vanished into silence. This visibility changed behavior. People acted carefully when actions could be remembered. Responsibility became shared. Justice was not abstract. It lived in daily life. As you imagine this, picture a quiet courtyard. Two neighbors stand before an official at a dispute over land or water. Voices remain controlled. The official listens. Not quickly, not impatiently. Evidence is considered. Witnesses speak. A decision is made. Not to humiliate, but to restore balance. This approach shaped Babylonian society. Law was not about dominance alone. It was about predictability. Predictability allowed peace. People slept better when they knew what tomorrow would bring. As the city matured, kings began to play a stronger role. Yet even now, their power remained bounded. A king was expected to uphold law, not override it casually. He was seen as a guardian of order. If he ruled unjustly, the gods would notice, and so would the people. This belief created restraint. Kings were careful with decisions, public. Works were favored over spectacle. Canals were repaired. Walls strengthened. Temples maintained. Visible care reinforced legitimacy. Babylonian kings were not distant figures. They were present through action, through stability. As your awareness softens, imagine the city at midday. Shadows short, activity steady. Merchants negotiate calmly. Scribes write carefully. There is movement, but not chaos. Life follows pattern. Religion continued to guide behavior. The gods were believed to support justice and unjust. Ruler risked divine displeasure. Floods, disease, defeat in war could all be interpreted as signs. This belief linked morality to survival. Ethics were practical: be fair or suffer consequences. This reinforced restraint at every level of society. Priests interpreted omens. They advised rulers, not as threats, but as reminders. Balance must be maintained. This worldview created continuity. Even during hardship, Babylon sought explanation, not panic. Events were understood within a system. Nothing was meaningless. As night deepens further, notice how comforting this structure feels. Uncertainty exists, but it is framed. Chaos exists, but it is contained. The city does not deny difficulty. It prepares for it. Babylonian education reflected this mindset. scribes trained rigorously. They memorized signs, copied texts, learned precision. Errors mattered, accuracy mattered, knowledge was respected. This respect preserved history. Past decisions guided future ones. Mistakes were not forgotten. They were studied. Time became cumulative. Each generation inherited understanding. This inheritance reduced fear. People knew they were not alone in time. They were part of a long sequence. Babylonian astronomy advanced steadily. Night skies were observed with patience. Stars were mapped, movements recorded, patterns recognized. The heavens became readable. This did not make people arrogant, it made them attentive. The universe followed order, and humans could align with it. Calendars refined daily life. Agricultural cycles improved. Festivals were timed precisely. Religion and science worked together. Both sought harmony as Part 1 gently dissolves into Part 2. Nothing interrupts the flow. The city continues functioning as Babylon entered a new stage of confidence. Its identity solidified. This was no longer a fragile settlement, it was a system. Every element supported another. Water supported agriculture. Agriculture supported trade. Trade supported wealth. Wealth supported culture. Culture reinforced belief. Belief reinforced order. This cycle strengthened the city. Art became more refined. Reliefs depicted rituals and scenes of daily life. Not exaggerated heroism, but structured activity. Art reflected values, order, balance, continuity. Even leisure followed pattern. Music accompanied ceremonies. Storytelling preserved memory. Entertainment was calm, not chaotic. Celebration reaffirmed belonging to Babylon's walls grew stronger. Gates were named. Entry points were controlled. Security increased, but without paranoia. Preparedness replaced fear. This confidence allowed expansion. Babylon began to influence surrounding regions. Its reputation grew, not only for power, but for stability. People respected Babylon as a place where life worked. This reputation attracted traders and scholars. Ideas flowed inward. Babylon absorbed them carefully. It did not abandon tradition, it integrated. This ability to adapt without losing identity became one of Babylon's greatest strengths. ASU breathe slowly now. Notice how this story feels less dramatic and more reassuring. There are no sudden rises and no sudden collapses, just steady accumulation. This is the heart of Babylon's endurance. The city trusted process, it trusted time. Even kings were temporary. Institutions endured. Law endured. Memory endured. This continuity allowed rest. People slept knowing the city would still exist in the morning. This sense of permanence is deeply calming as night deepens further. Your mind does not need to follow every detail. Just feel the stability, the quiet confidence, the sense that things are held in place. Babylon stands, not as legend yet, but as reality, solid, ordered, patient. And as you rest within this feeling, there is nothing required of you, no decision to make, no future to plan. Just the steady rhythm of a city that learned how to last. And you are free to let your awareness soften even more as sleep moves gently closer. You are still moving gently through the night. Your breathing has become quiet and steady. The weight of the day feels distant now. Babylon remains around you, not as noise or motion, but as presence that I end this part of the journey. We step closer to something central to Babylonian life. Belief. Not belief as fear, and not belief as blind devotion, but belief as structured in ancient Babylon. Religion was not separate from daily life. It was woven into everything. The rising of the sun, the flow of the river, the success of crops, the outcome of decisions. The gods were not distant figures living far beyond reach. They were active forces, present in nature and time. Each god represented a principle that required care. Marduk represented order and authority. Shamash represented justice and truth. Ishtar embodied love, fertility, and conflict. Ea symbolized wisdom and creation. These gods were not abstract. They explained the world. Storms had meaning. Illness had cause. Victory and defeat were interpreted. This did not create constant anxiety. It created attentiveness. Life was watched carefully. Actions mattered. Babylonians believed that harmony between gods and humans kept chaos away, and so rituals existed: daily rituals, seasonal rituals, state rituals. These rituals were not dramatic displays. They were calm, repeated actions, offerings of bread and drink, incense rising slowly, quiet prayers spoken softly. Repetition was important. Doing the right thing again and again maintained balance. Temples stood at the heart of the city. They were not only places of worship, they were centers of knowledge, storage, and administration. The temple represented stability. Its walls were thick, its layout precise. Inside, order ruled. Priests followed strict routines. Purification rituals were constant. Cleanliness mattered. Clothing mattered. Timing mattered. Nothing was casual. This discipline reflected the belief that the universe itself followed rules, and humans were expected to mirror that order. The ziggurat rose above Babylon. Its layered structure reached upward, connecting earth and sky. Climbing it was not an act of power. It was an act of alignment. Each level represented ascent, not away from the world, but deeper into understanding. The gods were honored, not controlled. Babylonians did not believe they could command divine forces. They believed they could cooperate. As night settles more deeply around you, imagine the temple interior. Cool stone beneath bare feet. Flickering lamplight. The scent of incense. The atmosphere is quiet. No shouting, no urgency. Only presence. This calm shaped Babylonian psychology. When difficulties arose, people did not panic. They consulted omens. They performed rituals. They sought guidance. This process slowed reaction. It encouraged patience. Priests interpreted signs carefully. Dreams were recorded. Stars observed. Unusual events noted. Meaning was sought, not imposed. This interpretation gave comfort. Nothing happened without reason. Nothing was meaningless as kings ruled. Their relationship with the gods was central. The king was not powerful alone. He ruled by divine favor. Public rituals reinforced this connection. Kings presented offerings. They led ceremonies, not as masters, but as representatives. If the gods were pleased, the land prospered. If not, reflection was required. This belief restrained arrogance. A ruler who ignored ritual risked disaster, and history provided examples. This reinforced humility as your awareness softens. Notice how this worldview reduces isolation. People were not alone facing uncertainty. They were part of a cosmic system. Their actions mattered, but they were supported by order beyond themselves. Babylonian festivals punctuated the year. The most important was the New Year festival. During this time, the city paused. Rituals reaffirmed creation. Marduk's victory over chaos was reenacted symbolically. This reminded everyone that order must be renewed. Even kings were humbled. The ruler symbolically surrendered authority and received it again. This ritual reinforced balance. Power was never absolute. It was granted temporarily as the city gathered. Celebration was calm, structured, meaningful. Music was rhythmic. Processions were orderly. The community moved together. This shared experience strengthened identity as Part 1 flows naturally into Part 2. Nothing shifts abruptly. The night remains calm. Belief also shaped personal life. Households maintained small shrines. Families offered prayers for health, for safety, for prosperity. These acts were simple. They provided Reassurance. Children grew up surrounded by ritual. This normalized uncertainty. Fear was managed, not amplified. Babylonian views of the afterlife were quiet and realistic. There was no promise of eternal reward. There was continuity of existence, but without grandeur. This grounded people in the present. Life mattered because it was lived now. Legacy existed through memory, through family, through contribution to order. This encouraged responsibility. Live well, act justly, maintain balance. That was enough. The gods did not demand perfection. They demanded effort. Sincerity. Consistency. As you breathe slowly now, this idea settles gently. You do not need to be flawless. You only need to align. To move with rhythm. To return to balance when disturbed. Babylon's religious system provided this framework. It allowed life to continue even when circumstances were difficult. Droughts came. Conflicts arose. But belief offered explanation and response. This prevented collapse. It allowed endurance. Over generations, these practices remained stable. Even as kings changed, even as borders shifted, the core rituals continued. This continuity preserved identity. Babylon remained Babylon because its beliefs anchored it. As night deepens further, your mind may begin to drift. Details soften. Images blur. That is fine. The essence remains. A civilization guided by calm repetition. By attention. By belief as structure, not fear. You do not need to remember God's names. You do not need to recall rituals. Just the feeling. Of being. Supported by something orderly. Of knowing that imbalance is not failure. It is part of movement. And that balance can always be restored. As this chapter comes gently to rest, Babylon stands quietly. Its temple steady. Its rituals ongoing. Its people sleeping. And you are free to rest with them. There is nothing to do now. Nothing to hold. Just the slow movement of breath and time carrying you forward. You remain within the night now. The outside world feels distant and unimportant. Your breathing moves gently, almost unnoticed. Babylon continues to exist around you, solid and calm, shaped by time and repetition. In this chapter, we turn our attention toward leadership. Not dramatic conquest, not loud declarations, but the slow formation of authority. In early Babylon, power did not appear suddenly. There was no single moment when kingship was fully defined. Instead, leadership evolved gradually, responding to need. As the city grew larger, coordination became essential. Canals required oversight. Defense needed organization. Trade demanded regulation. Someone had to hold responsibility. At first, leaders were local figures. Elders, officials, temple administrators. Their authority came from trust. They organized labor, resolved disputes, maintained balance. Over time, this responsibility concentrated. A single ruler emerged as the central figure of coordination. Thus, kingship took shape. Babylonian kings were not distant tyrants. They lived within the city. They walked its streets. Their power was visible through action, not isolation. A king was expected to provide stability. If floods damaged canals, he organized repair. If conflict arose, he mediated. If temples required maintenance, he supported them. This practical role grounded authority. Kings were not above the system. They were within it. Religion reinforced this structure. The king ruled by divine favor, but that favor depended on behavior. Justice mattered. Ritual mattered. Responsibility mattered. A king who neglected duties risked losing legitimacy. This belief restrained excess. Power was conditional. As night deepens further, imagine the king at dawn, rising early, participating in purification rituals, offering prayers not for personal success, but for the city. This image is calm. Leadership begins with discipline. Public ceremonies reinforced order. Kings appeared during festivals. Processions moved slowly. Symbols were displayed. Crowds watched. Quietly, there was respect, not frenzy. The king represented continuity, and he linked past and future. Babylonian kings also acted as builders. Construction was not vanity, it was responsibility. Walls protected the city. Canals fed the land. Temples stabilized belief. Inscriptions recorded achievements, not to glorify ego, but to document service. These records emphasized duty. They listed repairs completed, temples restored, order maintained. History mattered. Memory validated rule. As your awareness softens. Notice how this form of power feels. It does not overwhelm. It supports. It absorbs pressure so others can live normally. This idea of leadership is deeply calming. Someone else carries the weight. Someone else ensures order. You are not required to manage everything. Babylonian administration grew more complex. Officials assisted the king. Governors managed regions. Scribes recorded information. No ruler acted alone. This distributed responsibility prevented collapse. The system mattered more than the individual. Even a strong king relied on structure. Law continued to guide authority. Kings enforced laws, but did not create them arbitrarily. Legal tradition restrained impulse. This consistency created trust. People knew what to expect. Stability encouraged cooperation. As Babylon became more influential, its rulers interacted with neighboring cities. Diplomacy emerged. Agreements were negotiated. Conflict was not always the first response. Trade and alliance often came first. This reduced unnecessary warfare. War existed, but it was not constant. Preparation mattered more than aggression. Babylon valued endurance. As Part 1 settles quietly into Part 2, the rhythm remains unchanged. The city breathes steadily. Kingship also shaped identity. Babylon's rulers became symbols, not of fear, but of order. Their images appeared in reliefs, calm expressions, controlled posture, no exaggerated emotion. This visual language mattered. It communicated stability. Even in victory, restraint was shown. This reinforced trust. Babylonian kings were also bound by time. Their reigns were finite. Succession mattered. Heirs were prepared carefully. Continuity was prioritized over novelty. Sudden change risked chaos. Transition rituals ensured stability. When a king died, mourning was controlled. Rituals guided emotion. The city moved forward, power transferred, order continued. This process prevented collapse. No single death destroyed the system. As you breathe slowly now, notice how gently this society handled change. Nothing rushed, nothing broke. Suddenly, even endings were structured. Babylonian kings also played a role in religious life. They supported temples, led major rituals. They did not claim divinity. They acted as intermediaries. This position humbled them. They served gods and people. This dual responsibility balanced authority. Excess ambition was discouraged. Pride risked divine displeasure. Humility preserved favor. This belief restrained ego. Over generations, this model endured. Some kings were stronger, some weaker, but the structure remained. The city did not depend on personality alone. It depended on role. This separation is important. It allowed continuity. As night grows deeper, your thoughts may soften, details may fade. That is natural. What remains is the feeling, leadership as service. Authority as care, power as responsibility. This understanding allowed Babylon to grow without losing itself. The city became influential because it was stable, because people trusted its systems, because life functioned predictably. This predictability is deeply soothing. It allows rest. It allows sleep. As this chapter comes gently to rest, Babylon stands secure. Its king attentive. Its institutions steady. its people resting, and you are free to rest as well. There is nothing left to consider, nothing left to manage, just the slow movement of time carrying you forward into deeper calm. You are still here, still moving gently through the night. There is no rush now and no expectation to follow every detail. Just allow the rhythm of the sterito carry you forward. Babylon stands firmly in time, its walls steady, its people settled. I end this chapter. We turn towards something less visible but deeply powerful: law. Not law as punishment, not law as fear, but law as structure. As Babylon grew, daily life became more complex. Trade increased, property mattered, families expanded. With complexity came friction, disagreements over land, conflicts over trade, questions of responsibility. To prevent chaos, Babylon turned to order. Rules were not invented suddenly. They evolved slowly, shaped by experience. What worked was repeated. What failed was adjusted. Over time, custom became law. Babylonian law was practical. It focused on balance. When harm occurred, the goal was restoration. Not endless revenge, not emotional excess, just resolution. This approach created calm. People knew boundaries. They knew consequences. Uncertainty decreased, and with it, anxiety faded. Laws were recorded carefully. Scribes pressed symbols into clay. These tablets preserved decisions. Memory became stable. Justice was no longer temporary. It endured. This mattered deeply, because consistency builds trust. When rules apply evenly, people relax. They can plan. They can rest. Babylonian courts were not dramatic spaces. They were orderly. Officials listened carefully. Witnesses spoke. Evidence was weighed. The process mattered. Justice was slow but deliberate. This patience prevented escalation. Many conflicts ended quietly. No spectacle. No noise. Just resolution. As you imagine this, notice how calming it feels. Problems addressed methodically. Emotions contained. Nothing spirals out of control. Babylon understood something important. Stability begins with predictability. If tomorrow looks similar to today, fear decreases. Law provided this continuity. Even kings respected it. They enforced law, but were bound by it. Their authority depended on fairness. An unjust ruler risked unrest, and unrest threatened everything. So restraint was valued. Justice reinforced leadership. Leadership reinforced justice. A balanced cycle. As night deepens further, imagine a Babylonian scribe, seated quietly, focused, careful, each mark deliberate. Writing was sacred work. Errors mattered. Accuracy preserved peace. Through writing, law became permanent. This permanence shaped identity. Babylon was not just a place. It was a system that functioned. Families organized themselves around these laws. Marriage contracts were clear. Inheritance rules were known. Disputes were minimized. Life felt manageable. Even when conflict arose, there was a path forward. No endless uncertainty. This security is deeply soothing. Babylonian law also reflected values. Responsibility mattered. Negligence had consequences. Carelessness was discouraged. People were expected to act thoughtfully. This expectation created mindfulness. Actions were considered. Impulses restrained. Society slowed down. As your breathing softens, feel how this rhythm settles you. Nothing sudden, nothing chaotic, everything measured. Law also protected the vulnerable, widows, orphans, those without power. This protection reinforced cohesion. People trusted the system. Trust reduced fear. Fearlessness allowed cooperation. The city strengthened internally. As Part 1 moves gently into Part 2, the flow remains unbroken. Justice in Babylon was not cold. It was human. Judges understood context. They listened. They adjusted decisions when necessary, rigid punishment was avoided when possible, restoration was preferred. This flexibility preserved harmony. Even in punishment, balance was considered. Excess cruelty destabilized society. Babylon avoided this. Instead, order was preserved quietly, public knowledge of laws mattered. People were aware of expectations. Ignorance was minimized. This transparency increased fairness. Secrets create anxiety. Clarity dissolves it. Babylon chose clarity as the city expanded. Law adapted. New situations required new responses, but tradition remained the foundation. Change was gradual, nothing abrupt. This gentle evolution prevented shock as you sink deeper into rest. Notice how this mirrors sleep itself. Transition without disruption. Law also reinforced morality. Right and wrong were defined, not abstractly, but practically. Actions had outcomes. Understanding this created responsibility. People behaved carefully, conflict decreased, peace increased. Babylon became known for order. Other cities observed this. They respected Babylon, not only for power, but for stability. This reputation attracted trade. Trade reinforced prosperity. Prosperity reinforced peace. A calm cycle. Babylonian law also reflected belief. The gods valued justice. Maintaining fairness honored them. This spiritual dimension deepened commitment. Law was not merely human, it was cosmic. Order on earth reflected order in the heavens. This belief comforted people. Their lives had meaning. Structure was sacred. As night wraps more tightly around you, details may fade. That is expected. What remains is the feeling that a city that functions, that a society that resolves conflict gently, that a system that supports rest. Babylon stands not as chaos, but as calm organization, and within this calm, you are free to rest. No decision awaits you. No conflict needs resolution. The system holds. You can release control. Sleep draws closer. Babylon continues quietly. Its laws steady. Its people secure. And you drift gently onward, carried by structure toward deeper stillness. You are still moving gently forward. The night has grown deeper now. Your body is heavier, your thoughts softer. Babylon remains present, not demanding attention, not asking effort. It simply exists. I end this chapter. We turn toward movement. Not fast movement, not restless motion, but the steady circulation that keeps a city alive. Trade. Babylon's position was no accident. It stood between regions, between north and south, between mountains and sea. Caravans passed nearby. Boats traveled the river. Goods moved, slowly but constantly. Grain, wool, metals, stone, wood. Each item carried value. Each item carried stories. Trade did not explode suddenly. It grew patiently. First, exchanges were local. Farmers traded surplus. Artisans exchanged tools. Trust developed. Reputation mattered. A dishonest trader did not last long. Memory was strong. Over time, Babylon became a meeting point. Merchants arrived from distant lands. They brought unfamiliar goods, unfamiliar languages, unfamiliar customs. Babylon did not reject them. It observed. It learned. It adapted. Markets became organized spaces. Not chaotic crowds, but structured areas. Goods were displayed carefully. Prices were discussed calmly. Negotiation was expected. No shouting, no haste. Time was allowed. This atmosphere created calm. Trade was not stressful. It was routine. Babylonian merchants understood balance. Profit mattered, but stability mattered more. A fair trade ensured return business. Exploitation destroyed trust. Trust sustained prosperity. This philosophy shaped commerce. As your breathing slows, imagine walking through the market. Footsteps on packed earth. Muted voices, soft movement. Nothing overwhelms. Trade connects people quietly. Babylon's wealth did not accumulate in one place. IT circulated. Taxes supported infrastructure. Temples stored surplus. Labor was compensated. This distribution reduced tension. Extreme inequality was limited. Social balance was preserved. Money existed, but barter remained common. Value was flexible. Practicality guided exchange. Babylon did not chase excess. IT valued continuity. As trade expanded, record keeping became essential. Scribes documented transactions. Contracts were written. Agreements preserved. This reduced conflict. Memory became permanent. Trade became predictable. Predictability is calming. Merchants knew outcomes. Uncertainty decreased. Anxiety faded. Babylonian trade also shaped diplomacy. Foreign merchants became ambassadors. Ideas traveled with goods. Knowledge spread. Babylon learned from others without losing itself. This openness strengthened the city. As night settles further, notice how this exchange feels. Gentle, orderly, purposeful, movement without chaos. Trade also supported specialization. Some focused solely on commerce. Others produced goods. Others transported. Each role mattered. Interdependence increased. Community strengthened. No one functioned alone. Babylon thrived on cooperation. Even competition remained controlled. Excess rivalry threatened stability. Moderation preserved peace. This mindset slowed everything. Life was not rushed. As Part 1 fades quietly into Part 2, the rhythm remains unchanged. Nothing shifts abruptly. The city continues breathing. Trade also influenced daily life. Homes contained objects from distant lands. Small luxuries appeared. Beauty entered ordinary spaces. Life became more comfortable. Comfort reduced stress. Stress reduction improved social harmony. Babylon understood the value of ease. Hardship was minimized where possible. This made the city attractive. People wanted to live there. Migration increased. Population grew. Growth was managed carefully. Infrastructure expanded gradually. Nothing was forced. Babylon's rulers monitored trade closely. They regulated weights and measures. Fairness mattered. Consistency preserved trust. Abuse was discouraged. Law protected commerce. Commerce reinforced law. A stable cycle. As you sink deeper into rest, details may blur. That is fine. What remains is rhythm. Goods flowing, people cooperating, wealth circulating. No hoarding. No panic. Just movement. Trade also connected Babylon to time. Seasonal rhythms mattered. Flood cycles, harvest cycles. Trade adapted. Storage was used. Planning mattered. Babylon planned ahead. Preparation reduced fear. Prepared societies rest easier. Babylon rested well. Night. Markets closed quietly. Shops secured. Merchants returned home. The city softened. Trade paused. Rest took over. Even commerce respected rest. As your body grows heavier, notice how this mirrors you. Activity followed by stillness. Effort followed by release. Babylon did not chase endless motion. IT valued balance. This balance sustained it for centuries. Wealth was not loud. IT was functional. IT supported life. IT did not dominate. As this chapter settles, the city glows softly. Not with gold, but with stability. Trade hums quietly in memory. The pulse of Babylon continues, and you no longer need to follow it. You can drift. Nothing requires attention. Nothing needs resolution. The city carries itself, and sleep carries you. You are still here. The night has fully settled around you now. Your breathing is slow and natural. Nothing needs effort. Babylon continues quietly, not as noise, but as presence. I end this chapter. We turn toward belief. Not belief as fear, not belief as obsession, but belief as structured in Babylon. Religion was not separated from life. It was woven into it. Everyday actions carried meaning. Every space carried intention. The gods were not distant figures. They were forces that explained balance, weather, fertility, health, justice. Babylonians did not ask why gods existed. They asked how to live in harmony with them. This question shaped everything. Temples stood at the heart of the city, not towering in arrogance, but solid and stable. They were built slowly, maintained carefully. A temple was not just a sacred place. It was a center of order. Grain was stored there. Records were kept there. Decisions were guided there. Religion supported survival. Priests were not mysterious figures. They were educated administrators. They observed signs, tracked calendars, maintained rituals. Their role was to preserve balance. Rituals followed rhythm. Morning offerings, seasonal festivals, annual ceremonies. Nothing spontaneous, nothing chaotic. Repetition created calm. Repetition created security. As you imagine this, notice how soothing routine feels. Each day begins the same. Each season follows expectation. The gods were honored not with excess, but with consistency. Simple offerings mattered more than dramatic ones: bread, water, incense. Small gestures repeated over time. This taught patience. Religion slowed life down. Babylonian gods each represented a domain. No god controlled everything. Power was distributed, just like society. This mirrored the world as Babylonians understood it. Balance came from cooperation. Conflict came from imbalance. When misfortune occurred, it was not random. It was a sign. Something needed correction. Ritual restored alignment. Prayer was quiet. Private as often as public. No shouting. No frenzy. Just presence. As night deepens, imagine standing inside a temple courtyard. The air cool. Stone beneath your feet. A priest moves slowly. Words spoken softly. Nothing demands attention. Belief here is gentle. Divination played a role in Babylonian religion. Signs were read carefully. Dreams mattered. Stars mattered. Patterns mattered. Nothing was rushed to interpretation. Multiple signs were compared. Caution guided belief. This prevented panic. One sign did not cause fear. Understanding came through. Patience. This approach kept society calm. Babylon did not fear the unknown. It studied it. Festivals marked transitions. New Year ceremonies reset order. Old tensions were released. Forgiveness was ritualized. Renewal was intentional. This prevented emotional buildup. Society cleansed itself regularly. As your body relaxes further, feel how this practice of renewal feels. Nothing accumulates endlessly. Everything is released. Religion also reinforced morality. Honesty was sacred. Justice was divine. Cheating disrupted cosmic order. Fairness preserved it. This belief strengthened law. Law strengthened belief. They supported each other. Babylonian religion did not demand perfection. It accepted human limitation. Mistakes happened. Correction followed. This acceptance reduced guilt. Fear was not constant. Hope existed. The gods were powerful, but not cruel. They responded to effort. This belief comforted people. They were not helpless. They could accede as part 1 flows quietly into part 2. The rhythm remains. Unbroken. The night holds steady. Religious architecture reflected belief. Ziggurats rose gradually, step by step, not rushed. Each level symbolized approach, not domination. The sky was respected, not conquered. The structure guided attention upward, slowly. This gradual ascent mattered. Nothing was sudden. Babylonian religion emphasized order. Chaos was the enemy. Order was sacred. Every ritual reinforced structure. Structure calmed the mind. A calm mind rested easily. Religion also provided explanation. Death was not an ending of meaning. It was a transition. Ancestors were remembered, memory preserved connection. The living were not alone. This softened grief. Loss did not destroy continuity. Life flowed onward as sleep approaches closer now. Details may blur. That is natural. What remains is feeling that a city aligned with rhythm, that a people guided by repetition, a belief system designed to calm, not disturb. Babylon rested within its gods. The gods rested within order, and order allows rest. You are not required to believe anything, just to feel the quiet structure, the repetition, the reassurance. Nothing unexpected will happen. The ritual has been completed, the offering accepted. The night continues. Babylon remains steady, and you are free to drift deeper now. There is no more to follow and no meaning to extract, just the gentle echo of ancient calm guiding you towards sleep. You are still drifting gently forward. The night feels wide and quiet. Your body rests without effort. Your thoughts come and go slowly. Babylon remains present, not loud, not demanding, simply enduring. I end this chapter. We turn toward memory, not personal memory, but shared memory, knowledge. Babylon understood something early. What is not remembered does not last. And so, the city learned how to remember. Writing became the vessel. At first, marks were simple, symbols pressed into soft clay, numbers, names, lists. These early tablets were practical. They recorded grain deliveries, trade agreements, property boundaries. Nothing poetic, nothing abstract, just necessity. But necessity builds foundations. Over time, writing expanded. More symbols appeared. Sounds were represented. Meaning deepened. Cuneiform emerged slowly. Not invented in a moment, but refined over generations. Each scribe learned from the previous one. Consistency mattered. Accuracy mattered. A single error could change meaning. This discipline shaped the mind. Babylonian scribes trained for years. They memorized symbols, practiced strokes, learned formulas. Writing was not casual. It was responsibility. Scribes were respected figures, not because they held power, but because they preserved it. They recorded laws, rituals, histories, observations. Without them, continuity vanished. As you imagine a scribe at work, notice the stillness. Hands steady, breathing slow, focus complete. Writing required calm, and calm shaped writing. Babylonian. Education followed structure. Students copied texts repeatedly. Repetition built memory. Memory built confidence. Confidence reduced anxiety. Learning was not rushed. Mistakes were corrected patiently. This method created stability. Knowledge accumulated rather than scattered. Babylon became a center of learning, not through ambition, but through consistency. Astronomy was recorded carefully. Stars were tracked night after night. Patterns noted. Cycles identified. Generations contributed. No single observer claimed ownership. Knowledge belonged to time. This long view created humility. Understanding grew slowly. Medicine followed similar paths. Symptoms were described. Treatments recorded. Observation guided practice. Healing was systematic, not magical. Religion and medicine coexisted. Both sought balance. Both valued order. This integration reduced fear of illness. Understanding replaced panic. As your breathing deepens, feel how knowledge comforts. Uncertainty shrinks when patterns appear. Babylonian libraries existed quietly, rooms filled with tablets, ordered shelves, categorized texts. Access controlled, preservation prioritized. Fire and water were threats. Protection mattered. Knowledge was fragile, and so it was guarded. These collections were not for everyone, but their influence spread. decisions improved, planning improved, life stabilized. Writing also preserved stories. Myths explained origins, legends taught values. These narratives were not entertainment. They were guidance. They shaped worldview. They explained suffering. They contextualized life. Meaning reduced despair. Babylon understood the power of explanation. Even imperfect answers were better than none. Part 1 flows gently into Part 2. Nothing changes abruptly. The night remains still. Writing also reinforced law. Legal codes were inscribed. Visible, permanent. Justice became predictable. Predictability calmed society. People trusted outcomes. Trust allowed rest. Babylonian mathematics advanced quietly. Counting systems refined. Measurements standardized. This precision supported trade. Trade supported prosperity. Prosperity supported peace. Knowledge fed stability. Babylon did not hoard learning. IT transmitted it. Students became teachers. Apprentices became masters. Continuity was intentional. This prevented loss as generations passed. The city remembered itself. Even during hardship, records guided recovery. Memory rebuilt what disaster removed. This resilience mattered. Babylon survived because it remembered as night deepens further. Details may soften. That is natural. What remains is the feeling. A city that thinks carefully, learns patiently, records deliberately. Knowledge here is quiet. It does not shout. It accumulates. It supports life invisibly. Writing turns time into continuity. Past speaks to future. Present listens. This conversation never ends. Babylon rests within this exchange, and you rest within Babylon. There is nothing to memorize, nothing to analyze. Just the sense of order. Of continuity. Of memory holding the world together. As your mind drifts closer to sleep, let the symbols fade. Let the tablets rest. The knowledge remains, even when awareness sleeps. Babylon continues recording. You do not need to. The city remembers for you, and so you drift further now, held by memory, guided by quiet understanding, toward deeper and gentler rest. You are still drifting. The night feels deep and safe now. Your body no longer resists rest. Thoughts move slowly, like water. Babylon remains around you, not as a monument, not as an idea, but as a place where people lived. I end this chapter. We step away from kings and temples, away from law and knowledge. We enter the quiet heart of the city, daily life. Most Babylonians were not rulers. They were not priests. They were not scribes. They were people. They woke with the light. They worked. They rested. Life followed rhythm. Homes were built of mud brick, simple, functional. Walls were thick. They kept heat out during the day. They kept warmth in at night. Rooms were arranged around inner courtyards. Privacy faced inward. The outside world stayed at a distance. This design mattered. It created calm. Noise softened, movement slowed. Families gathered inside these spaces. Cooking fires burned gently. Food was prepared slowly. Bread baking was familiar. The smell constant. Meals were not rushed. Eating was shared. This shared routine strengthened bonds. Children learned by watching. Skills passed quietly. No urgency, no pressure. Babylonian clothing was practical. Loose garments. Natural fibers. Comfort mattered more than display. Decoration existed, but excess was rare. Jewelry was worn for meaning, not vanity. Daily appearance reflected balance. Beauty was subtle. This reduced comparison, reduced envy. Social harmony improved. As you imagine these spaces, notice how gentle everything feels. Life is not demanding attention. It simply unfolds. Work filled the day. Farmers tended fields. Artisans shaped tools. Builders repaired structures. Tasks were repetitive. Repetition created mastery. Mastery created confidence. Confidence reduced stress. People knew what they were doing. They had done it before. They would do it again. Babylon valued routine. Routine stabilized emotion. Rest followed work naturally. Evenings were quiet. Families gathered again. Stories were told. Not dramatic tales, but familiar ones. Shared memory comforted. Night did not frighten that it signaled rest. Sleep was respected. Babylon did not glorify exhaustion. Balance mattered. Children slept early. Adults followed. The city softened at night as your breathing deepens. Feel how this rhythm supports you. Nothing to complete. Nothing to rush. Just sequence. Daily religion blended into life. Small prayers before meals. Simple gestures, no performance. Faith was intimate. This intimacy reduced fear. The gods were present, but not oppressive. Life felt guided, not controlled. Health was cared for patiently. Minor illness was common. Treatments were known. Herbs, rest, observation. Panic was rare. Understanding replaced fear. Babylon did not expect perfection. It accepted fluctuation. Good days and bad days. Both belonged as Part 1 settles quietly into Part 2. The rhythm remains unchanged. Homes also reflected social order. Extended families lived together. Support systems were strong. No one was isolated. Elders were respected. Experience mattered. Their presence calmed younger generations. Wisdom was not loud. That it was steady. Babylonian children learned responsibility early. Small tasks. Simple duties. This created belonging. Belonging reduced anxiety. People knew their place. Not as limitation, but as connection. Festivals interrupted routine gently. Music appeared. Food increased. Joy was allowed. But excess was temporary. Balance returned. This prevented emotional extremes. Life remained stable. Art existed quietly. Patterns carved into everyday objects. Designs on pottery. Beauty integrated into function. Art did not demand attention. It enhanced life subtly. This integration reduced distraction. Everything had purpose. Babylonian music was simple. Rhythm mattered. Melodies were repetitive. Repetition soothed. Music did not overwhelm. It accompanied. Silence was respected. This balance between sound and quiet supported rest. As your awareness softens, notice how nothing in this life is extreme. No constant excitement. No constant fear. Just continuity. Even conflict, when it arose, was contained. Disputes were resolved. Emotions cooled. Life returned to normal. Normal was valued. Babylon did not chase novelty. It preserved what worked. This conservatism was strength. It prevented instability. As night deepens further, details may fade. That is fine. What remains is atmosphere, warm interiors, soft light, quiet voices. A city not trying to impress, just trying to live. Babylon endured because daily life was sustainable. People were not drained. They were supported. This allowed generations to continue. As you drift closer to sleep, feel how ordinary life can be comforting. No grand purpose required. Just presence. Just rhythm. Just rest. Babylon rests in its homes now. Cooking fires extinguished. Voices quiet. The city sleeps, and you are invited to do the same. Nothing is unfinished. Nothing is waiting. Tomorrow will come just like today did. Slowly, predictably, and that is enough. You remain within the quiet flow of night. Your breathing is slow and steady. Nothing pulls your attention sharply anymore. Babylon is still here, still steady, still calm. I end this chapter. We turn towards something that might seem disruptive at first, war, but not as chaos, not as noise. Instead, as preparation. Babylon did not live in constant conflict. but it understood uncertainty. The world beyond its walls was not always gentle. Other cities rose and fell. Rival powers watched. Resources were contested. Babylon did not ignore this reality. It prepared for it quietly. Defense was part of order. City walls were not symbols of aggression. They were reassurance, thick, wide, carefully maintained. They did not change daily. They endured. Gates were controlled. Not closed to the world, but regulated. Movement was observed. Awareness prevented surprise. This vigilance was calm, not anxious. Soldiers were not a separate class obsessed with battle. They were citizens. Farmers, artisans, workers. In times of peace, they lived ordinary lives. Training was periodic. Weapons were stored, not displayed constantly. This kept war distant from daily life. Babylon did not glorify violence. It respected necessity. When conflict arose, it was approached methodically. Plans existed. Leadership coordinated response and no frantic reaction. Preparedness reduced fear. As you imagine this, notice how different this feels from constant tension. Readiness without panic. Defense also included strategy. Babylon valued position. The river provided natural protection. Canals doubled as barriers. Terrain was understood. Knowledge replaced brute force. Walls were reinforced over generations. Not rushed. Not neglected. Maintenance mattered more than expansion. A strong defense discouraged attack. Deterrence preserved peace. Babylon preferred stability over conquest. War disrupted trade, damaged infrastructure, disrupted ritual. These costs were understood. Conflict was last resort. Diplomacy came first. Messages were sent. Terms discussed. Violence was not impulsive. This restraint reduced destruction. As night deepens, feel how this measured approach calms the mind. Threats acknowledged. Not exaggerated, response planned. Not emotional. Babylonian weapons were practical. Spears, shields, bows. Nothing extravagant. Tools designed for defense. Armor protected without burden. Mobility mattered. Endurance mattered. Soldiers were trained to hold position, not to rush forward. Holding ground preserved order. Even in battle, structure guided action. Command chains were clear. Signals were understood. Confusion was minimized. Minimizing confusion preserved life. Babylon valued survival. Victory was secondary. Returning home mattered. As Part 1 flows quietly into Part 2, the rhythm remains steady. Nothing sudden shifts. Defense also included recovery. After conflict, repair began immediately. Walls were rebuilt. Canals restored. Life resumed. No lingering glorification. War ended. Routine returned. This prevented trauma from spreading. Society healed. Babylon understood the importance of closure. Rituals marked the end of conflict. Thanks were offered. Loss acknowledged. Grief was contained within structure. This allowed healing. Soldiers returned to normal roles. They were not elevated above others. They rejoined community. This prevented division. No permanent warrior class dominated. Balance was restored. Babylonian leaders understood restraint. Pursuing endless war drained resources. It weakened society. Endurance mattered more than dominance. This philosophy allowed longevity. Babylon survived centuries of shifting power because it avoided exhaustion. As your body grows heavier, notice how this approach mirrors rest. Energy conserved. Effort measured. Nothing wasted. Defense without obsession. Preparedness without fear. Babylon's calm strength came from knowing it did not need constant expansion. Stability was victory. As night deepens further, details may soften. That is expected. What remains is feeling. A city that does not panic. A society that prepares quietly. A people who understand limits. Even uncertainty is managed. Even danger is structured. This understanding allows rest. You do not need to watch the horizon. The walls are strong. The gates are guarded. Others are awake. You are safe to sleep. Babylon rests within its defenses now, weapons stored, fires low, voices quiet. The city breathes slowly, and you can release awareness. Nothing requires action. Nothing demands vigilance. Preparedness has already been handled. You are free to drift deeper now, supported by calm, strength into uninterrupted rest. You are still drifting gently. The night feels wide and steady. Your body is heavy now, resting without resistance. Babylon remains quiet around you, not as stone and walls, but as land. That I end this chapter. We turn away from the city itself and toward what sustained it. The earth. Babylon existed because the land allowed it. Without fields, without water, without careful attention to nature, nothing endured. The Babylonians understood this deeply. They did not see the land as something to dominate. They saw it as something to manage patiently. Agriculture shaped everything. Fields stretched beyond the city walls. They followed the rhythm of the river. The Euphrates was generous, but unpredictable. Floods brought fertility. Floods also brought destruction. Babylon learned to live between these extremes. Canals guided water gently, not forcing it, but directing it. This balance mattered. Too much water destroyed crops. Too little ended harvests. Precision was essential. This precision required cooperation. Communities worked together. Maintenance was constant. Ditches were cleared. Banks reinforced, and no single person controlled water. Responsibility was shared. This collective effort created unity. Farming was repetitive, planting, waiting, harvesting. This cycle never changed. Repetition created patience. Patience shaped culture. Babylon did not expect immediate reward. That it understood delay. Seeds were placed in soil with faith in time. This relationship with waiting influenced the mind. Anxiety lessened. Trust grew. Imagine fields at dawn. Feel the stillness, cool air, soft light. Movement is slow. Nothing rushes the earth. Crops were chosen carefully. Barley, wheat, dates. Reliable staples. Diversity existed, but stability mattered more. Food security prevented fear. Fear destabilizes society. Babylon avoided it. Storage was essential. Granaries held surplus. This planning protected against drought. Preparation replaced panic. Knowing reserves existed allowed people to rest. Agriculture also shaped calendars. Seasons were observed carefully. Planting times recorded. Harvest dates predicted. This alignment with time created harmony. Life followed nature's pace. Babylon did not fight seasons. That it adjusted to them. Animals were part of daily life. Oxen pulled plows. Sheep provided wool. Goats provided milk. Care was practical. Animals were respected. Their health mattered. Neglect reduced productivity. This reinforced responsibility. Farming families passed knowledge through generations. Techniques refined slowly and sudden. Innovation disrupted balance. Change was gradual. This preserved stability. As Part 1 flows gently into Part 2, the rhythm remains unchanged. Nature was also spiritual. The land was sacred. Fertility was divine. Harvest festivals honored both earth and gods. Gratitude was ritualized. This gratitude reinforced care. The land was not taken for granted. Babylonian farmers observed signs. Weather patterns, soil conditions. Observation guided decisions. Guesswork was avoided. Experience mattered. This attentiveness created mindfulness. Work became meditation. Hands moved. Mind focused. This state reduced stress. Labor did not overwhelm. That it grounded. Agriculture also shaped social structure. Most people lived close to land. Urban life depended on rural effort. This connection prevented arrogance. City and countryside were linked. Respect flowed both ways. Babylon did not disconnect itself from source. Food connected everyone as night deepens further. Notice how grounding this feels. Life rooted in earth, cycles repeating, nothing artificial. Nature does not hurry, neither does sleep. Floods were feared but accepted. When damage occurred, repair followed. Blame was minimal. Nature was not malicious, it was powerful. Acceptance replaced resentment. This attitude preserved peace of mind. Babylon adapted rather than resisted. This flexibility allowed survival as your thoughts soften, details may fade. That is natural. What remains is rhythm. Fields growing, water flowing, people working slowly. The land does not. Demand urgency. It invites patience. Babylon mirrored this patience. Its endurance came from listening to soil, listening to water, listening to seasons. This attentiveness calmed society. People trusted tomorrow food would grow again. Harvest would return. Continuity was expected. Expectation reduced fear. As this chapter settles, the fields rest, tools set aside, hands wash, the sun lowers. Night cools the land. Babylon sleeps knowing the earth will continue its work even while people rest. Seeds remain underground. Water flows quietly. Growth happens unseen. You do not need to watch it. Nature holds the process, and so you are free to let go. Nothing is required. The land supports the city supports you, and sleep arrives gently as naturally as growth itself. You are still moving gently, almost without noticing movement at all. The night feels complete now. Your body is settled, your thoughts unhurried. Babylon remains with you, steady and quiet, as it always has been. I end this chapter. We lift our attention slowly upward, not abruptly, not with effort, just to notice the sky. For Babylon, time was not abstract. It was observed. The passing of days mattered. The changing of seasons mattered. Nothing happened randomly. Patterns existed, and Babylon learned to listen. The sky became a guide, not a mystery to fear, but a system to understand patiently. Babylonian observers watched the heavens night after night. They did not seek immediate answers. They recorded. They compared. They waited. Stars rose and fell. Planets moved slowly across darkness. The moon changed shape predictably. These movements were written down. Not once, not twice, for generations. Understanding emerged gradually. This slow accumulation mattered. Knowledge here was layered. Each generation added a thin lineado, a much larger picture. Calendars developed from observation. Days were counted, months defined. Years structured. Time became organized. Life aligned with cycles. Festivals matched seasons. Planting followed lunar rhythm. Rituals followed celestial signs. This alignment created harmony. People felt connected to something larger than themselves. This connection reduced anxiety. Nothing felt meaningless. Babylonian timekeeping was careful. Adjustments were made when needed. Errors were corrected. Nothing rigid. Flexibility preserved accuracy. Accuracy preserved trust. As you imagine a Babylonian observer on a rooftop, feel the stillness. Eyes lifted, breathing slow. The sky does not hurry. Neither does understanding. Astronomy was not separated from daily life. It informed agriculture, religion, governance. Decisions were timed carefully, not impulsively. Timing mattered. Acting at the right moment reduced effort. Reduced effort preserved energy. Babylon understood this deeply. Astrology emerged. Naturally, not as superstition alone, but as interpretation. Patterns in the sky were seen as messages, not commands, guidance. Multiple signs were considered together. One sign was never enough. This caution prevented fear. Misinterpretation was avoided. Panic was rare. Babylon valued patience. Time itself was sacred. Rushing was disrespectful. Waiting was wisdom as your breathing deepens. Notice how comforting this approach feels. Nothing urgent. Nothing pressing. Just observation. Calendars stabilized. Society. Everyone shared the same rhythm, workdays, rest days, festivals. This synchronization mattered. People moved together. Community strengthened. Isolation decreased. Shared time created belonging. Babylon did not live fragmented, it lived aligned. Even death was understood through time. Life had phases. Beginnings, middles, endings. Endings were not failures, they were transitions. Time carried everything forward. This belief softened grief. Loss did not feel absolute. Continuity remained as Part 1 flows. Gently into Part 2, the sky remains unchanged, still vast, still quiet. Timekeeping also influenced governance. Rulers planned reigns around cycles. Coronations followed auspicious timing. Transitions were ritualized, nothing abrupt. This prevented instability. Change occurred within structure. Structure reduced fear. Babylonian thinkers understood something subtle. Time is not an enemy. It is a container. It holds life. It allows growth. Fighting time creates tension. Working with time creates peace. Babylon chose peace. As night deepens further, details may soften. That is natural. What remains is sensation. The slow turning of the sky. The gentle passing of hours. No urgency. No deadline. Even sleep follows time's guidance. You do not force it. You allow it. Babylon allowed time to shape everything. That is why it endured. Civilizations that rush burn out. Babylon moved slowly. And so it lasted. As your awareness drifts closer to sleep, feel how time loosens its grip. Minutes lose meaning. Hours dissolve. There is only rhythm, breath, stillness. The same rhythm that guided the stars now guides you. You are not late. You are not early. You are exactly where you need to be. The sky continues its motion without requiring your attention. Calendars turn. Seasons shift. Babylon rests beneath the stars, and you rest with it. There is nothing to track, nothing to measure. Time holds you gently now, and sleep arrives not suddenly, but naturally, as it always does. You are still here. The night has grown thick and gentle around you. Your body rests heavily now. Supported by the quiet rhythm of breathing, Babylon remains present, not asking for attention, not demanding effort. It simply exists. In this chapter, we turn towards something soft and subtle, art. Not art as spectacle, not art as display, but art as presence. In Babylon, beauty did not shout. It whispered. It lived inside everyday objects. It was woven into function. Babylonian art did not exist to impress outsiders. It existed to support life. To bring harmony. To reflect order. Craftsmanship was everywhere. Pottery shaped patiently by hand. Tools designed with care. Clothing stitched with purpose. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was excessive. Artisans worked slowly. They repeated motions daily. Hands learned memory. Muscle learned precision. Over time, skill deepened. This repetition was calming. Work became meditation. Babylonian pottery carried simple designs, geometric patterns, flowing lines. No random decoration. Every shape meant balance. These patterns mirrored nature, water flows, plant growth, celestial cycles. Art reflected the world as it was understood. Not chaotic, ordered. This visual order reinforced mental calm. When surroundings feel structured, the mind relaxes. Babylon understood this intuitively. Homes contained beauty quietly. Bowls were shaped smoothly. Furniture was proportioned carefully. Even bricks followed measured ratios. Symmetry mattered. Predictability mattered. Beauty came from consistency, not surprise. Babylonian sculpture followed the same philosophy. Figures were calm, posture controlled, faces neutral. Emotion was restrained. This was intentional. Excess expression suggested instability. Calm expression suggested order. Art reinforced values. Stability, restraint, continuity. As you imagine these forms, notice how they do not excite. They settle. They ground. They slow the breath. Babylonian reliefs told stories. Kings performing rituals. Gods receiving offerings. Workers carrying goods. These scenes were not dramatic. They were procedural. They documented life. This documentation mattered. It preserved memory. It reinforced identity. People recognized themselves in art. This created belonging. Art was not distant. It was familiar. Craft guilds existed quietly. Skills were passed through apprenticeship. Learning was slow. Mistakes corrected gently. No pressure to innovate constantly. Tradition mattered more than novelty. This preserved quality. Preserved calm. Babylon did not chase. Trends. It refined what already worked. As your breathing deepens, notice how comforting this is. No demand to create something new, just permission to continue. Music also played a role. Instruments were simple, lyres, flutes, drums. Rhythm mattered more than complexity. Melodies repeated. Sound accompanied ritual. Accompanied work. Accompanied rest. Music did not dominate silence. It complemented it. Silence remained respected. This balance prevented overload. Babylon valued quiet. Even celebration was measured. Festivals included music, but it did not overwhelm. Joy existed within structure. This prevented emotional exhaustion. Art also appeared in writing. Calligraphy mattered. Tablet layout mattered. Spacing mattered. Even text had visual order. Writing was beautiful through precision. Beauty and clarity aligned. This reduced confusion. Confusion creates stress. Babylon minimized it. Part 1 flows gently into Part 2. Nothing shifts suddenly. The night remains soft. Art also connected Babylon to the divine. Symbols represented gods, not through abstraction, but through form. Each symbol repeated consistently. Recognition mattered. Familiarity comforted. The sacred was not mysterious. It was known. Known things are less frightening. Babylon preferred understanding to awe. Art served this purpose. Architecture followed the same philosophy. Buildings were proportional. Spaces intentional. Movement guided. Walking through Babylon felt intuitive. Nothing disoriented. Orientation reduced anxiety. You always knew where you were going. This clarity mattered. Babylonian color use was restrained. Earth tones, natural pigments, gold appeared sparingly. When it appeared, it mattered. Contrast created focus. Focus reduced distraction. Distraction disrupts calm. Babylon avoided it. Your awareness softens. Details may blur. That is fine. What remains is atmosphere. A city designed not to stimulate endlessly, but to support endurance. Beauty here does not excite. It reassures. It says everything is in its place. Nothing is excessive. Nothing is missing. This balance allowed Babylon to endure centuries. Civilizations that overstimulate collapse. Babylon conserved energy. Art helped regulate emotion. Emotion stayed within bounds. This prevented social volatility. People felt grounded. Grounded people cooperate. Cooperation sustains society. As night deepens further, imagine artisans finishing their work. Tools set aside. Hands washed. Creations complete. Nothing unfinished. Nothing urgent. The city rests surrounded by its own quiet beauty. You do not need to observe every detail, just feel the effect. Surfaces smooth, lines ordered, space intentional. Your mind mirrors this order, thoughts slow, edges soften. There is nothing to analyze, no meaning to extract. Art has already done its work, it has settled you. Babylon rests within its crafted environment. Walls hold warmth. Objects remain still. Beauty stays silent. And you are free to drift deeper now. No inspiration required. No creation demanded. Just rest. The quiet language of beauty has spoken. And now it lets you sleep. You are still drifting. The night feels wide and quiet now. Your breathing has found its own rhythm, steady and unhurried. Babylon continues to exist in the background, not as a place of noise, but as a place of movement, slow movement. Predictable movement. I end this chapter. We follow the paths that connected Babylon to the wider world, trade. Not hurried exchange, not aggressive expansion, but patient circulation. Babylon was never isolated. Its strength came from connection, from roads that stretched outward, like calm veins carrying goods, ideas, and people at a measured pace. The Euphrates River was the first road. Water flowed as it always had, and Babylon learned to move with it, not against it. Boats traveled slowly, cargo rested securely. There was no rush. Time allowed trade to breathe. Grain moved downstream, while followed dates, oil, clay tablets. Each item traveled with intention. Trade was predictable. Predictability creates trust. Trust creates stability. Babylonian merchants understood this deeply. They did not rely on speed. They relied on reliability. Routes were known. Stops were established. Rest points existed. Travelers knew where night would find them. This reduced fear. Fear disrupts sleep. Babylon minimized fear wherever possible. Beyond the river, roads extended across land. Packed earth paths, marked carefully, maintained consistently. Roads were not monumental. They were functional. Function mattered more than appearance. Carts moved steadily. Animals were guided calmly. Nothing frantic. Trade followed seasonal rhythms. Certain goods moved at certain times. This alignment with nature reduced strain. Working against nature exhausts societies. Babylon chose cooperation instead. As trade expanded, so did knowledge. Merchants carried stories, observations, measurements, foreign customs, but these were absorbed slowly. Babylon did not rush to adopt everything new. It filtered. It evaluated. It preserved its core. This prevented cultural overload. Babylon remained Babylon. Markets within the city reflected this calm structure. Stalls arranged logically, goods grouped intentionally, noise existed, but it was contained. No chaos. Voices rose and fell naturally. Bargaining followed known patterns. Rules were understood. Agreements recorded. Trust reinforced by documentation. Clay tablets ensured clarity. Clarity reduces anxiety. Even economic life supported calm. Trade was not only material. Ideas moved quietly. Mathematics traveled. Astronomy. Writing techniques. Babylon absorbed what fit its system, ignored what disrupted balance. This selective exchange preserved continuity. As your awareness softens, imagine walking through a Babylonian market. Not crowded, not overwhelming. Space exists, movement flows. Nothing presses in on you. Trade connected Babylon to distant lands. Anatolia, Levant, Persia, the Gulf, but distance did not mean urgency. Journeys took time. Time was accepted. Delays were expected. Schedules were flexible. This reduced pressure. Pressure shortens patience. Babylon extended patience. Trade also strengthened diplomacy. Merchants acted as quiet ambassadors. They learned languages, customs, etiquette. Misunderstandings were avoided through familiarity. Familiarity breeds comfort. Comfort supports peace. Peace sustains trade. Everything reinforced everything else. Even taxation was measured. Rates were recorded. Expectations clear. Surprises minimized. Economic shock destabilizes societies. Babylon prevented it through structure. AS Part 1 drifts naturally into Part 2. Nothing shifts sharply. The rhythm remains even. Trade affected daily life gently. Homes contained goods from afar, not as luxury, but as usefulness. Foreign wood became furniture. Foreign stone became tools. Foreign ideas became adapted practices. Nothing replaced the local identity. Everything integrated. This integration mattered. Babylon did not lose itself through trade, IT strengthened itself. Caravans moved at dawn and dusk. Travel avoided harsh midday heat. Schedules respected the body. The body matters. Civilizations that ignore. The body collapse. Babylon paid attention. Animals were rested. People were fed. Sleep was valued. Trade respected human limits. This is rare. But Babylon understood endurance. Contracts were sacred, words held weight. Breaking agreements damaged reputation. Reputation mattered more than profit. Long-term thinking guided decisions, short-term gain was secondary. This mindset sustained centuries of commerce as you sink deeper into rest. Consider how calming this is. A world where movement does not demand urgency, where exchange does not create stress, where distance is not an enemy, only a journey. Trade also required security. Guards existed, but presence was quiet. Protection without intimidation. Safety without fear. Babylon avoided militarizing trade. Weapons remained secondary. Trust remained primary. This balance maintained flow. Flow is life. Blockage creates tension. Babylon kept channels open. Even during conflict, trade often continued. Life must go on. Continuity matters. Babylon chose continuity. Whenever possible, merchants rested in caravanserais, shared meals, shared silence. Stories exchanged softly at night. Firelight flickered, no haste. Sleep came naturally. Trade routes were also routes of rest. This matters. Rest sustains movement. Movement sustains civilization as night deepens further. Imagine the Euphrates flowing quietly. Boats tied gently. Goods secured, no shouting, no urgency. Only water moving as it always has. Babylon listens to this rhythm. The city breathes with it. Trade does not. Disturb the night. It aligns with it. You do not need to remember details. Names and places can fade. What remains is sensation, slow movement, steady exchange. A world connected gently, without strain. Your breathing mirrors this now. Inhale, exhale. Nothing to deliver, nothing to receive. Everything already where it should be. Babylon rests within its networks. The world moves softly around it. And you are free to drift further still. No destination required. The road is calm. The journey complete. You are resting more deeply now. The world outside feels distant. Thoughts slow without effort. Breathing becomes something you no longer guide. Babylon remains with you, steady and unhurried. I end this chapter. We move into something often imagined as rigid, but in Babylon, it was designed to bring calm, law. Not law as punishment, not law as fear, but law as structure. As reassurance. As a quiet framework that allowed life to move without constant uncertainty. Babylon understood something fundamental. Uncertainty disturbs the mind. Predictability allows rest. Law existed not to intimidate, but to clarify. Rules were written, visible, known. Clay tablets recorded expectations. This mattered. When people know what will happen, anxiety fades. Babylonian law was precise. Not emotional. Not impulsive. Measured. balanced. Each situation had an outcome. Not perfect justice, but consistent justice. Consistency mattered more than idealism. People could prepare. Preparation reduces fear. The Code of Hammurabi is often remembered for severity, but beneath the surface, its deeper function was order to remove ambiguity, to replace personal revenge with structured response. This was a civilizing force. Without structure, conflict escalates endlessly. Babylon chose containment. Laws addressed trade, property, family, labor, everyday matters, not abstract philosophy, daily life. This grounded justice. Justice lived alongside people, not above them. That as you imagine these tablets, etched carefully, note how writing itself slows action. Writing requires patience, deliberation, reflection. Babylon did not rush judgment. Processes existed, witnesses, records, verification. These steps slowed emotional reaction. Slowness protects societies. Fast judgment leads to instability. Babylon slowed everything. Judges were trained, not to interpret freely, but to apply consistently. Personal bias was minimized. Structure replaced impulse. This reduced resentment. Resentment disrupts peace. Peace allows sleep. Law also reinforced social roles. Expectations were clear. Responsibilities defined. Boundaries respected. Boundaries create safety. Safety allows relaxation. People knew where they stood. This knowledge mattered. Even penalties, when applied, followed known rules. No surprise, no chaos. Punishment without unpredictability. Predictable consequences reduce crime more effectively than fear. Babylon seemed to understand this intuitively. As your awareness softens, imagine a dispute resolved calmly. No shouting. No violence. A tablet. Consulted. Witnesses speak. Decision made. Life continues. This was revolutionary. Law also supported equality within structure. Not modern equality, but consistency. That a person's status was recognized, but rules still applied. This prevented arbitrary power. Arbitrary power terrifies societies. Babylon constrained power through law. Even kings presented themselves as guardians of law, not creators of whim. This mattered. Authority rooted in order feels safer. Authority rooted in impulse feels threatening. Babylon chose order. As part 1 flows quietly into part 2, nothing changes abruptly. The night remains smooth. Law also shaped architecture. Court spaces were simple but functional. No intimidation through scale. Accessibility mattered. Justice was not hidden. Visibility created trust. Trust reduced tension. Even language mattered. Legal language was precise. Not poetic. Not ambiguous. Clarity mattered more than elegance. Ambiguity invites conflict. Babylon avoided it. Family law supported stability. Marriage contracts existed. Inheritance defined. Children protected. Predictable family structure reduced chaos. Chaos destabilizes societies. Babylon contained it. Labor laws protected balance. Wages recorded. Obligations clear. This prevented exploitation from escalating into unrest. Unrest disrupts sleep. Babylon valued rest. Even debt had limits. Time mattered. Debt was not endless. Release existed. This prevented despair. Despair destroys societies. Babylon guarded against it. Law also intersected with morality. But morality was not emotional. It was practical. What preserves harmony? What sustains continuity? This pragmatic ethics supported longevity. Babylon did not seek moral perfection. It sought stability. Stability lasts longer as you sink deeper into calm. Consider how this affects the mind at a world where rules are known, where outcomes are expected, where conflict resolves quietly. Your nervous system relaxes. No vigilance required. No threat anticipated. Justice becomes a background structure, not a looming presence. Babylon's legal system reduced cognitive load. People did not constantly negotiate boundaries. They were defined. This freed mental energy. Mental energy could be used for life, for family, for craft, for rest. Law also recorded memory. Cases preserved. Decisions remembered. This created institutional knowledge. Society learned. Mistakes were not repeated endlessly. Learning reduced friction. Reduced friction allowed smooth flow. As night deepens further. Imagine scribes working late. Tablets stacked. Neatly, cases completed. Nothing unresolved. Completion brings peace. Unfinished matters disturb sleep. Babylon closed loops carefully. Even conflict had an ending. This is rare. Many societies leave wounds open. Babylon stitched them closed. Not perfectly, but consistently. Law became invisible over time. When systems work, they fade into background. You stop noticing them. Babylon's greatest success was invisibility. Justice that does not demand attention. Order that does not announce itself. Ask your thoughts. Slow further. Details may dissolve. Names. Specific laws. Exact penalties. They can fade. What remains is sensation. A sense of being held by structure. Supported by predictability. Protected from chaos. Babylon rests within its legal framework. The city sleeps because conflict has boundaries. Boundaries create peace. Peace invites sleep, and you follow naturally. No judgment, no decision. Nothing unresolved. Everything already accounted for. You are free to drift deeper now. Law has done its work, order remains, and the night continues, soft and uninterrupted. You are very still now. The body no longer asks for movement. Breathing happens quietly on its own. Thoughts arrive more slowly and leave without resistance. Babylon remains present, but softer than before. I end this chapter. We step into the sacred life of the city. Not religion as fear, not belief as urgency, but faith as rhythm. As repetition. As something that soothed rather than unsettled. Babylonian religion was deeply woven into daily life, yet it was not overwhelming. The gods were everywhere, but they were familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. Babylon did not imagine its gods as distant mysteries. They were present forces, known personalities, defined roles. Each god governed an aspect of existence: water, storm, fertility, wisdom, justice. This division mattered. It organized the universe. When the universe feels organized, the mind relaxes. Chaos terrifies, structure comforts. Babylon structured even the divine. Temples rose quietly within the city. Not chaotic spaces, not disorienting. They were ordered, symmetrical, predictable. Entering a temple felt grounding. You knew where to walk, where to stand, where to pause. Movement itself became ritual. Ritual slows time. Babylon valued this slowing. Priests followed schedules. Offerings occurred at expected times. Prayers repeated known phrases. Nothing improvised. Improvisation excites the mind. Repetition calms it. Babylon preferred calm. Rituals marked the day, the month, the year. Festivals followed the calendar. The calendar followed the stars. Everything aligned. Alignment creates reassurance. The world makes sense. When the world makes sense, sleep comes easier. Prayer in Babylon was not dramatic, no shouting, no emotional display. Words were measured, gestures restrained. This restraint mattered. Emotion was guided, not released uncontrollably. Controlled emotion preserves social balance. The gods were honored through consistency, not passion. Consistency was devotion. Babylon believed the gods desired order. and order was something humans could provide. This created purpose without urgency. You did your part. The gods did theirs. No anxiety, no desperation. As you imagine a Babylonian ritual, notice the slowness, the deliberate pace, the silence between actions. Silence mattered as much as sound. Silence allowed reflection. Reflection deepened faith. Deep faith did not require constant affirmation. It rested quietly. Temples were also centers of learning. Knowledge was sacred. Astronomy, mathematics, medicine. To understand the world was to honor the gods. Ignorance was not holy. Understanding was. This removed fear of knowledge. Fear creates tension. Babylon embraced learning gently. Priests observed the sky. Stars moved predictably. Planets followed paths. This predictability reinforced belief in order. Even the heavens followed rules. Rules everywhere. Nothing random. Nothing meaningless. Meaning reduces existential anxiety. Babylon provided meaning without drama as Part 1 flows seamlessly into Part 2. The night remains unbroken. Ritual also shaped personal life, birth rituals, marriage rituals, funeral rituals. Transitions were marked. Marked transitions reduce uncertainty. You know when one phase ends and another begins. Babylon did not leave transitions undefined. Death, especially, was approached calmly, not denied, not sensationalized. The dead moved to another state. Not punishment, not reward, continuation. This continuity softened grief. Grief without terror, grief without panic. Life flowed onward. Ancestor remembrance was gentle. Offerings, words, spoken quietly, memory preserved without obsession. This allowed the living to continue. Clinging disrupts rest. Babylon encouraged balance. The gods were powerful, but not cruel. They could be displeased, but displeasure had reasons. Humans could correct behavior. This agency mattered. Feeling powerless creates anxiety. Babylonian faith offered agency. Do the ritual correctly. Honor the calendar. Maintain order. The gods respond. This predictability comforted the mind. Even omens were structured. Signs were interpreted through systems. Not superstition alone. Patterns mattered. Meaning was decoded calmly. No panicked. No hysteria. Interpretation was intellectual. This transformed fear into analysis. Analysis calms emotion. The sacred was rational. Rational sacredness is rare. Babylon achieved it. The great ziggurats rose above the city. Not as threats, as symbols. Steps rising gradually. No sudden ascent. Approach mattered. Movement upward mirrored spiritual ascent. Slowly, deliberately, never rushed. Standing atop a ziggurat was not ecstatic. It was contemplative. The city below ordered. The sky above vast. Between them, stillness. This stillness mattered. It reminded people of scale. Their smallness. Smallness reduces ego. Reduced ego reduces conflict. Religion served social peace. Babylon understood this. Faith was not personal obsession. It was communal balance. Shared ritual synchronized emotion. Synchronization builds unity. Unity stabilizes societies. Stability allows rest. As your body sinks further, imagine the city. At night, temples quiet, torches low, incense fading. No constant ceremony. The gods did not require exhaustion. They respected rest. Even priests slept. Sleep was sacred. Rest restored balance. Balance honored the gods. This belief removed guilt around rest. Rest without guilt is powerful. Babylon allowed it. Festivals brought joy, but joy was structured, beginning, middle, and endless celebration. No loss of control. Joy did not become chaos. Order preserved joy. Faith also shaped morality. Not moral panic. Not obsession with sin, but harmony. Actions were judged by impact on balance. Did this disrupt order? Did this disturb peace? Morality was practical. Practical morality reduces shame. Shame disturbs sleep. Babylon minimized shame that as the night deepens further, details may soften. Specific gods, specific rituals, names fade. That is fine. What remains is atmosphere, a city breathing with ritual rhythm, a people supported by sacred repetition. Faith not as tension, but as reassurance. Your breathing matches this rhythm. Now in, out. Nothing to appease, nothing to fear. Everything already aligned. Babylon rests under its gods. The gods rest within their order. And you drift freely, held by a sense of quiet meaning, that no questions unanswered, that no rituals undone. The sacred has done its work, and now it releases you into deeper rest. You are very quiet now. The night feels wide and accepting. Your breathing is slow, deep, and effortless. Thoughts drift like distant clouds, never demanding attention. Babylon remains beside you, steady and unchanging. In this chapter, we explore something that defined Babylon deeply, yet never loudly: knowledge. Not knowledge as ambition, not learning as pressure, but understanding as care, as patience, as a gentle discipline practiced over generations. Babylonian knowledge was not rushed, it unfolded. Slowly, observation mattered more than discovery. Repetition mattered more than innovation. To know something truly, one must watch it long enough. Babylon watched the world, the sky, the rivers, the seasons. Patterns revealed themselves. Patterns calm the mind. When events repeat predictably, fear diminishes. Babylon built its knowledge on cycles. Time was not a straight line, it was a circle. Days followed nights. Months followed seasons. Years followed stars. This circular view softened urgency. Nothing needed to be finished immediately. It would return again. Astronomy was central. The sky was observed nightly, stars recorded, movements compared. Errors corrected patiently, no urgency. Accuracy over time mattered more than speed. This approach created deep understanding. Babylonian astronomers did not chase wonder. They chased reliability. Reliability creates trust. Trust creates peace. Calendars emerged from this patience. Time was organized, days named, months counted, festivals placed, agriculture aligned, ritual synchronized. When time is structured, life flows more smoothly. Babylon reduced temporal confusion. Confusion causes stress. Babylon minimized it. Mathematics served practical calm. Numbers organized land, trade, construction. Nothing abstract for abstraction's sake. Numbers served order. Order reduces anxiety. Babylon's base 60 system reflected balance. Divisible, flexible, adaptable. This mathematical harmony supported daily life quietly. Writing preserved knowledge. Clay tablets lasted, fragile yet enduring. Words fixed in form. Memory externalized. This relieved the mind. People did not carry everything inside. The tablet remembered. This is powerful. Memory weight can disturb rest. Babylon shared the burden. Schools existed quietly. Apprentices learned slowly, copying texts, repeating calculations. Repetition trained patience. Patience calmed the nervous system. Babylon educated through rhythm. Mistakes corrected gently, no humiliation. Learning was expected to take time. Time was generous, as you imagine. A scribe copying symbols, note the slowness. Each mark deliberate, hands steady, breath calm. This act itself was meditative. Knowledge practice became rest. Medicine reflected the same philosophy. Observation before action. Symptoms recorded, patterns recognized, treatments adjusted. Healing was gradual, no miracle cures promised. Expectation was realistic. Realism reduces disappointment. Babylon avoided false hope. False hope exhausts. Knowledge also guided engineering. Irrigation channels measured carefully. Slopes calculated. Water guided gently. Force was avoided. Force damages systems. Babylon guided rather than pushed. Timekeeping shaped social life. Work had limits. Rest was scheduled. Night mattered. Ignoring night damages health. Babylon respected night. Night was not wasted time. At IT was restoration. As Part 1 flows into Part 2, the rhythm remains even. No sudden shift. Knowledge also shaped ethics. Understanding consequences mattered more than intention. Action judged by effect on balance. This pragmatic ethics reduced moral conflict. Conflict disturbs rest. Babylon preferred harmony. History itself was recorded, not as drama as record. Events listed, dates noted, memory preserved without embellishment. This removed emotional distortion. Distortion fuels conflict. Babylon kept memory factual. Factual memory stabilizes identity. Identity without exaggeration is calm. Babylon knew who it was. It did not mythologize constantly. It documented. Documentation grounds reality. Time also shaped. Humility. Knowledge revealed vastness. The sky immense. Human scale small. This perspective reduced arrogance. Reduced arrogance reduces conflict. Knowledge served peace. As you sink deeper into rest, consider how this feels. A world where learning does not pressure. Where understanding unfolds slowly. Where time is an ally, not an enemy. Babylon lived within time, not against it. Aging was accepted, change expected. Decay natural. This acceptance reduced fear of impermanence. Fear of impermanence disrupts. Sleep. Babylon softened it. The future was not unknown terror. It was continuation. The past was not burden. It was reference. Reference guides calmly. Knowledge connected past, present, future. This continuity mattered. Babylon did not fear forgetting. Tablets remembered, stars returned, seasons repeated, nothing truly lost. This belief soothed the mind. As night deepens further, details fade. Specific calculations, specific star names, exact numbers. They can dissolve. What remains is attitude, patience, observation, respect for time. Your breathing mirrors this now. Slow, even unforced. No deadline, no urgency. Nothing incomplete. Everything unfolding at its pace. Babylon rests within its accumulated understanding. Time moves gently around it, and you drift freely within that movement. No need to hold knowledge, no need to recall. The discipline has already done its work. Understanding has settled, and now it allows rest. You are drifting gently now. The boundary between thought and rest feels thin. Breathing is slow, natural, unobserved. The night holds you without effort. Babylon remains close, not as a grand city, but as a place where ordinary life unfolds calmly. To end this chapter, we step away from temples and laws, from trade routes and stars, and move into the spaces where life actually happened, the home, daily routine. The quiet art of living. Babylonian life was not hurried. Most days followed familiar patterns. Familiarity is comforting. Waking with the light, resting with the dark. The sun guided activity. Artificial urgency was rare. People rose early, but not in haste. There was no race against time. Time moved with them. Homes were simple, built from mud brick, earth returning to earth. Walls held warmth. Courtyards allowed air. Design favored comfort over display. Privacy mattered, quiet mattered. The home was a place of restoration, not performance. Families lived together across generations. This created continuity, Children learned by watching. Elders taught through presence. Knowledge passed gently, no pressure, no constant instruction. Learning happened naturally. Meals were shared slowly. Food was simple: grain, vegetables, dates, occasional meat. Eating was not rushed. Rushing food disturbs digestion. Babylon ate with time. Conversation during meals was soft. Storytelling existed, but not constant entertainment. Silence was accepted. Silence at the table was not awkward. It was normal. This normalized. Calm. Daily work followed rhythm. Craftsmen worked with hands. Farmers followed seasons. Tasks repeated. Repetition stabilized the mind. Each day did not require reinvention. This reduced mental fatigue. Babylon understood endurance. Children played in courtyards. Games were physical, not overstimulating. Running, throwing, simple toys. Play ended naturally as light faded. No artificial extension. Rest followed activity. This balance mattered. Clothing was practical. Designed for climate. Loose, comfortable. No excess layers. No unnecessary restriction. The body moved freely. Freedom of movement reduces tension. Babylon allowed it. Bathing was part of routine. Water was respected. Cleansing was gentle, not obsessive. Cleanliness supported health. Health supported calm. Illness was accepted as part of life, not moralized, not hidden. Care was given patiently. Recovery took time. Time was allowed. Nightlife was minimal. After sunset, activity slowed. Torches lit softly, voices lowered. The night was not conquered. It was respected. Respecting night supports sleep. Babylon slept. Homes grew quiet early. Rest was valued. This may be Babylon's greatest secret, a civilization that slept well. Social interaction followed known boundaries. Neighbors knew one another. Roles understood. Conflict existed, but was contained. Gossip did not dominate. Drama was discouraged. Excess emotion disrupted harmony. Harmony mattered. Celebrations occurred, but not constantly. Festivals had beginnings and ends. Afterwards, normal life returned. Endless stimulation. Babylon avoided burnout. Even children were not overscheduled. They learned responsibility gradually. Tasks matched age. This built confidence without pressure. Confidence reduces anxiety. Anxiety disrupts sleep. Babylon protected sleep. Your awareness softens further. Imagine an evening in Babylon. Families settle. Work tools set aside. Food prepared. The air cools. Sounds diminish. No screens. No alerts. No constant input. Just presence. People existed without constant distraction. Distraction fragments attention. Fragmentation exhausts. Babylon preserved attention. Attention could rest. Social bonds formed through shared time, not performance. Being together mattered more than doing. This reduced loneliness. Loneliness disturbs the nervous system. Babylon mitigated it through structure. Life stages were marked gently: childhood, adulthood, eldership. Each stage respected. No pressure to remain young. Aging was accepted. Acceptance reduced fear. Fear of aging disrupts peace. Babylon softened it. The elderly were valued for memory. Memory grounded society. Grounded societies sleep. Babylon's daily life was not perfect. Hardship existed. Loss existed. But suffering was not amplified unnecessarily. Life was not dramatized. Drama excites. Excitement disrupts rest. Babylon kept emotion proportionate. As part 1 eases into part 2, nothing shifts abruptly. The night continues its quiet descent. Daily spirituality existed quietly. Small offerings, short prayers, gratitude. Not obsession. Faith did not dominate every moment. It supported life without consuming it. Balance again. Children learned respect through example, not through fear. Punishment was measured, explanation preferred. Understanding corrected behavior more gently. Gentleness preserves trust. Trust supports calm. Babylon built trust slowly. Even leisure was calm. Music soft, games simple, storytelling unembellished. Entertainment did not overwhelm. Babylon avoided sensory overload. The senses were allowed to rest asure. Breathing deepens further. Notice how this feels. A life without constant urgency, without constant comparison, without constant stimulation. The nervous system relaxes. The mind stops scanning. Babylon created environments where vigilance was unnecessary. Safety felt stable. Stability invites surrender. Surrender invites sleep. Homes darkened fully at night. Stars visible. The sky present. People were not cut off from nature. Nature regulates circadian rhythm. Babylon slept in alignment with the sky. This alignment matters. Modern life disrupts it. Babylon preserved its night deepens further. Details blur. Exact routines. Specific foods. Precise layouts. They can fade. What remains is feeling. A gentle, grounded way of living. Life not as a race, but as a rhythm. Your body recognizes this. Breath slows. Muscles release. There is nothing to prepare for, nothing to complete, nothing to prove. Babylon rests within its daily life. Ordinary moments complete. Homes quiet, families settled. The city breathes evenly, and you are free to drift with it.no story to follow.no effort required. Daily life has held you, and now it lets you sleep. You are very close now to complete rest. The body feels heavy in the most comforting way. Breathing is deep, slow, and steady. Thoughts no longer form clearly. They soften before becoming words. Babylon is still here, but it feels farther away now, like a city seen through morning mist. I end this final chapter. We do not rush toward an ending. Babylon itself did not end suddenly. It faded, gently, quietly. Civilizations rarely disappear in a single moment. They soften, they thin, they dissolve into memory. Babylon's legacy was not noise. It was structure. It was rhythm. It was continuity. Long after power shifted, after rulers changed, after walls crumbled, Babylon remained alive in ideas. In timekeeping. In mathematics. In writing. Its influence moved quietly into other worlds. The greatest legacy is often invisible. Babylon taught humanity how to organize life, how to measure time, how to record memory, how to balance belief with reason. These lessons traveled far. But Babylon itself did not cling to immortality. It accepted impermanence. This acceptance matters. Fear of ending creates tension. Acceptance creates peace. Babylon accepted change. Empires rose. Empires fell. Babylon adapted. Then slowly, it stepped back. The river continued. The stars remained. People came and went. This perspective softened loss. Babylon was never obsessed with being remembered. It was focused on being stable while it existed. Stability is enough. You do not need eternity to matter. You only need balance. Time passed. Trade. Routes shifted, power centers moved. The city grew quieter. Buildings aged, streets emptied, but the land remained calm. Nature reclaimed space gently. No violence, just continuation. Grass through brick, wind through empty corridors. Silence replaced sound. Silence is not absence. It is rest. Babylon entered rest. Its knowledge lived on in fragments. Copied, translated, adapted, but the urgency was gone. The city no longer needed to perform. This is the final lesson. Nothing needs to perform forever. Everything deserves rest. As part 1 drifts into part 2, the transition is almost imperceptible, just like decline, just like sleep. Legacy does not shout. It hums quietly beneath later civilizations. Every clock that measures time, every contract written, every law recorded, every calendar observed, Babylon is there, not visibly, but structurally. This is deeper than memory. It is integration. Babylon dissolved into humanity itself. And because of that, it did not truly disappear. It relaxed. The ruins tell the story. Quietly. No drama, no final battle. Just stone resting where stone fell, sand covering edges, time smoothing sharpness. This smoothing matters. Sharp endings hurt, soft endings heal. Babylon healed itself by letting go as your breathing slows further. Imagine standing where the city once stood. Not imagining crowds, not imagining noise, just space. Open sky, wind, the Euphrates nearby, water still moving. Water does not remember kingdoms. It flows anyway. Babylon understood water, understood flow, understood that resistance exhausts. Flow continues. Civilizations that resist change break. Babylon flowed, and when it was time, it flowed into quiet. There is no tragedy here, only completion. Completion is peaceful. Unfinished things disturb sleep. Babylon finished its work, its ideas planted, its systems shared, its rhythm passed on. Nothing left undone. As your awareness fades further, details no longer matter. Dates, names, kings, battles, they dissolve. What remains is essence, order, balance, patience, respect for time, respect for rest. Babylon's final gift was this understanding that silence is not failure, that rest is not weakness, that endings can be gentle. Your body understands this now. Muscles release, jaw softens, breath deepens. There is nothing left to follow. Next chapter, expectation. The journey is complete. Babylon steps back. The night steps forward. You are not losing anything. You are being carried. Just as Babylon was carried into history, quietly, without resistance. The stars remain. The river flows. The earth breathes. And you are free to let go completely now. No memory required. No learning required. Everything that needed to be known has already settled. The city sleeps. The story rests. And so do you. Good night.